We have a roll call, please.
Mashevsky,
Here.
Odine,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Swanson,
Here.
Toom,
Here.
Richter,
Here.
Spafford,
Here.
Wells, Mangold.
Here.
Looking for approval of the minutes for April 15th meeting.
I move approval of the meeting, of the minutes of the April 15th meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. It's approved. Now is the time for public comments. If anybody from the audience would like to step up to the microphone and comment, now would be the time to do so. Anybody at all?
Adam, I have something.
Well,
So
all right.
I'd like to welcome Kellen Wells Mangold tonight. I know last time I was going to introduce Mark, and then I waited till the end, so I apologize for that, Mark. So Mark Spafford is also 1 month into this, or it's 2 months or 1 month?
This is my second month.
Second month.
meeting.
So Kellen, welcome, Assistant Athletic Director at the UW, and
Yep.
welcome aboard. Glad
Thank
to
you.
have you.
Thanks, guys. We do have, is this the St. Croix Valley Business Innovation Center check presentation?
That's correct.
All right.
So good evening. My name is Danielle Campo. I'm the director of the Center for Innovation and Business Development at UW River Falls. I did have a presentation, a few slides, but I can't get that to work, so we'll opt for just giving you a verbal overview and thank you along with the check presentation. So wanted to just give you a quick background on the St. Croix Valley Business Innovation Center, let you know where we are, some of the successes that we've had so far, and again, thank the Utility Advisory Board for their recent contribution to the center as well. So a quick background, our mission is to provide incubation space, training, and support to businesses to help foster entrepreneurship and small business growth within the St. Croix Valley region. And we are very fortunate to be located within the city of River Falls. Our 4 founding partners include the City of River Falls, the University of Wisconsin River Falls, Chippewa Valley Technical College, and the River Falls Economic Development Corporation, which owns the facility. And we are managed by a management committee with representatives from each of those organizations. Just a couple of statistics I wanted to quickly share with you regarding the state of business in our region. There are roughly 1,200 estimated startups in St. Croix and Pierce counties. So that's a really big number, and a lot of those startups end up failing. The startup failure statistics are pretty astounding. Roughly half of business startups will fail within the first few years. And then really, again, the purpose of the Innovation Center is to help create more successful small businesses in our region to help grow the economy. And some of the research about incubation centers are that we can actually increase that survival rate from 50% up to 75% through providing the support, the referrals, and the resources that we have through our center. So just a couple of facility statistics before I end. Wanted to let you know that we do have currently 2 assigned tenants in our facility, Interfacial Consultants, as well as Chippewa Valley Technical College. We also have 4 additional leads for space in the facility. So we're already at our goal for capacity for the first year, which was set at 33%. I'm very confident that with the growth of business and the way the economy has been going, that we're going to exceed that goal, and we'll actually be in a situation where we've rented out all the space, which is a great problem to have. So far, it looks like the light industrial and manufacturing space is actually has the highest demand. The most interest is in that space, and we have about 12,000 square feet of space to support businesses in that area. We also have 2 rental rooms. So meetings take place in our training room as well as our conference room so far. Those rooms have been used about 75.5 hours, and we've had about 293 individuals so far that have come in since we opened February 1st. So again, we're serving not only businesses, but also businesses in the community and their employees that are interested in training programs. Our grand opening event, for any of you that were able to make it, we had a great attendance. We had 220 people that attended our grand opening. And donors, so far we have 7 donations, which brings me to my final thank you to the Utility Advisory Board for your recent contribution to the St. Croix Valley Business Innovation Center. Really, your support is going to help small businesses grow, and we're really goals to help job creation, help job retention, and to help capital infusion for those businesses. And a lot of the research suggests that those businesses that are located in the facility will also then locate within the region, and we would really hope that since River Falls is a fantastic area for businesses to locate, we'll keep them here. So So again, on behalf of the River Falls Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors, thank you very much for your donation. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Come down and help me present the check, Chair. Come on up, Danielle, this is the check for St. Croix Valley Business Innovation Center. And as the electric utility, we spend a lot of time on conservation, and electric loads are flat or declining. And one way we know as a utility that we can grow electric load is to create new businesses in River Falls. Not only does it create electric load, it's great for our community, it creates jobs, it creates opportunities for people. We're proud sponsors of St. Croix Valley Business Innovation Center. And Adam, why don't you hold that end, and Danielle hold this end. And thank you very much for coming. I was going into that. We good? All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, you keep it. This is my Happy Gilmore joke. We throw this in the back seat, like Happy Gilmore, got like these in there.
Again, thank you. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, which would be the acknowledgement of the West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Facility Commission meeting minutes, as well as the Powerful Choices Committee meeting minutes.
Move approval as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Those are approved. Unfinished business, which would be item number 3, which is a tabled resolution from last month recommending the ordinance change for backwater valves.
Yeah, I put an update in your packet, and after consulting with a couple of UAB members and Ron Garth, our wastewater superintendent, what we're going to do is in this memo, I put three action items that we're going to do. And rather than bring this back to you to make a resolution to enforce a state code, we thought we're going to do 3 things. One, we're going to pursue enforcement of the state plumbing code related to backwater valves. And I know, Ron, do you have any comments on whether or not, and the last time you were visiting your son in California, is there anything you want to say about the plumbing code and the clarity of that and how you feel it is? Just real briefly, if you would like. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it'd be good to hear from you.
Yeah, I think, Kevin probably covered it, but I think, the question came in the code was subject to backwater. And I think that's where it's always been a sticking point. What buildings are subject to backwater? It needs a definition. I think we'll still probably have to come up with a way to define that. But the way I read plumbing code, it says, it's not a shall, it's not you may. Or it is shall, it's not you may. So, I think we probably we can come up with a way to enforce it through our building code and kind of get it the way we want it. So,
I think too, Ron, we felt that maybe it was a little redundant to have an ordinance that says we should enforce part of the state code. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. But as we looked into it, there's a number of cities that do it. There's quite a few cities that actually have it in their in ordinance. But I guess that is at first. I think it's probably worth trying to just enforce it through our normal procedure of inspections. Mm-hmm. And I guess as a last resort, you could go back to the ordinance.
Right. So that's where we're at with that. We think we're going to take this normal channels and try to get it enforced, and we'll see what our inspection department says about that. But we're going to try to take that less, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, extreme route. So.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess just a different way of doing it. Maybe it doesn't have to be an ordinance. So.
Correct. Maybe that's what it is.
So.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And then, so the part of our 3-pronged approach, the second one is, I have begun a 2-year aggressive education program trying to help people understand what they own related to sewer, what they own, what they're responsible for, what not to flush. Do they have insurance in case there is a backup on their own line or a city line itself? I think that is probably going to do more to help in the near run than anything. Backwater valves, if we start installing them today, that's something, an advantage that we're probably not going to be able to realize in our careers, but down the road it would really help. But I think something that could help more today is a real aggressive education program, again, to help people understand that this is a serious thing and they need to call their insurance company to make sure if there is a backup that they are insured. That's number one, that what to flush, what not to flush. So that's the second one. And then the third one is just continue our cleaning, lining, and televising programs to ensure a reliable system. We have a vac truck that we've had for a couple of years now. Ron and his guys have a program together. We're cleaning, we're televising on a regular basis. I mean, there are anomalies, right? Stuff does get clogged, stuff does get flushed down toilets, put in manholes that we can't avoid. But I know Ron and his crews are taking a proactive approach to cleaning and lining as well, which we're going to hear about from tomorrow shortly, and also televising. So do you feel comfortable, Ron, with your guys' approach to that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we went from a situation of them not being familiar with the whole process to, as we go on now, they get more up to speed. It's going quicker. Guys it's a good thing because they're learning. They know the system. I mean, they're going to know it better than anybody. And the longer we do this and the longer those guys hang in with us, it's just going to improve everything.
So I think I heard you last month, and rather than be reactive and do something, I think what we decided in the last 30 days was take a proactive approach and something that's going to help more in the near run, and then also be looking forward as well to consider enforcing the backwater belt program. But I don't think any action's needed today. We heard you loud and clear. We're going to be proactive and hopefully educate our community about sewers. So anything else, Ron?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
So no action is needed today, so I thought I'd just give you an update of where we're at on that. Tabling that was a very healthy thing. It gave us time to reflect, talk to a few of you, and come up with a plan.
And do that great video.
You see that?
Yeah, it was great. It's a
You know,
little
it's
terrifying,
amazing.
but
So
yes.
who would ever think you could do a sewer video and get almost 6,000 views on a video in 5 days? But it's out there, so.
Because it scared everybody, that's why. Perfect. All right, so moving on to item number 4 would be the resolution recommendation for the 2018 sanitary line contract. And I believe tomorrow we'll
This
go
is
over
our
that.
annual presentation from Tamara Jaworski, Engineering Tech, and
Awesome mapper.
awesome mapper. And I think she got us some fresh video today of sewers. So, I mean, that was her intention, I heard this morning in the meeting. So we'll see. We'll see what she's going to delight us with in her presentation about our sewer lining contract. Thanks, Tamara.
Yep. Oh, we don't want that. That's not the right thing. I best be putting the glasses on. I'll apologize to the group because some of you have seen this part of this presentation before. Sewer lining has not changed appreciably in the past 2 years. That there's a whole lot new for the video. And I take a minute here to figure out slideshow. I think we go here. Okay. I'm Tamara Jaworski. I'm the engineer tech and GIS mapper for the utility. I worked with primarily Ron and Greg to look at the system and find the appropriate sewer mains that we felt needed to be lined this year. We're going to start with the video that I believe many of you have seen before, but it's a good example of how, if it comes up here, it's a good example of how the lining works.
InSituForm's flagship cured-in-place pipe technology, or CIPP, is a pipe within a pipe, installed without digging. Resin-saturated, coated felt tubing is inverted or pulled into the existing pipe. Hot water or steam is then circulated throughout the tubing, curing the resin and forming a tight-fitting, jointless, corrosion-resistant pipe within a pipe. Service laterals are then restored using a robotically controlled cutting device. Finally, the rehabilitated pipe is fully inspected by closed-circuit TV. InSituForm's trenchless technology is the world's most trusted pipe rehabilitation solution.
And although that was a video from InSituForm, the basic premise of how lining is done is the same. Flexible material is put down through the manhole. steam or water cures that, that cured product ends up to be a solid type of material that then they come along and cut the laterals out. So as this slide shows, it just shows that there's a solid pipe within the existing pipe. This slide shows you that on the left-hand side you can see the pre-clay pipe. There's cracks up along the right-hand side of that picture. And then the picture on the lower right is that a main after it's been lined. Smooth, no cracks. This is just an overview of what we want to do this year. The next couple slides will be shots closer in of the areas. And again, Ron, I, and Greg looked at sewer video. They were given ratings, but it's not just sewer videos that the determination for what is going to be lined is done. It's based on maintenance throughout the year, when they clean, how many roots are coming out of there. So there's numerous things that help in this decision. You can't see real well here because I can't enlarge this, but it does show that you've got some mains on Grove. We've got some on Pearl, Fremont, and I think the last one, which I can't see right there, Fall Street. And then here on the east side of town, there's several that are on 3rd. There's a main on Cedar. There's a main on 4th. And there's a couple on 8th. And then this is just south of the University, Broadway, and Charlotte Street. And if we have a few minutes at the end, I'll show you a video of that the guys, the field video that the guys did of some of the Broadway pipe. This here is just an overview of the amount of footage. If you added up the footage, there's roughly 4,900 feet of 8-inch pipe in this bid packet. We added 300 feet of 10-inch pipe, though not a single one of those mains are 10-inch. Why do we do that? Because 2 years ago, I learned the hard way. We didn't have any 8-inch that we knew of, put the bid out. The companies come in. They very precisely have to measure that pipe because they've got to fit it for the proper lining, and they came to me and said, oh, do you realize that 2 of your mains are actually 10-inch and not 8? Okay, so here I had 10-inch and no bid number for it. So we put in 300 feet of 10-inch just as a buffer in case we are mistaken on our pipe size. You add that up, and that turns out to be around 5,000 feet total that we'll be televising and cleaning, and an estimate of 111 service laterals that will need to be cut. Not every one of those is cut. Some of those service laterals are capped. Capped because they were never attached to, or capped because a home was torn down and not replaced. Those we will not cut open. Originally, the bid went out, or to back up, about a year ago in January, I brought one of the contractors in for about 4 hours to give us a demo, explain to us stuff about lining. Had a couple other communities come in, so for 4 hours, give us, explain to us more about lining. What can we learn? What can be lined? What can't be lined? Through that process, we tweaked our spec, took some of their suggestions, didn't take some of the others. And one of the suggestions we liked at the time was, yeah, we like this idea of putting in that the final result will be 6 millimeters thick. We put the bid out that way. But then we had another company call us and explain a few things that we weren't aware of, because this is a learning process for us. And to try to keep that as simple as I can, pre-lining thicknesses for various companies differ. Company A's thickness might go 5.8, 6.0, 6.2 before it's lined. So a 6.2 liner, before it's cured, cures down to a 6, and they'd meet that minimum. But the next company's lining thicknesses might go from 5.5 to 6 to 6.5. So that company, in order to get a post-cured thickness of 6, had to put in a 6.5. Company C's liners might go 5, 6, 7. So that company C has to put in a 7 mil pre-cured thickness to even get, to meet the 6 mil minimum. So that was one thing that kind of seemed to be unfair to some of the bidders. They would have to put in a lot thicker liner, cost them more money, it's harder to install, they might only get 2 mains put in a day versus 3. But the other thing that we found out through talking in a conference call, I, Ron, Greg, and this gentleman, explained more of the ASTF standard, which is the standard for pipelining, that formulas in there, when they decide what thickness should be in a main, when you're lining it, they take into account the size of the main, they take into account the depth of the main, various things. And they come up with what they feel, these formulas come up with what they feel needs to be the minimum. Then they add a safety factor of 2, which we were not aware of. So automatically, if you use those formulas, you're getting the minimum plus. So we sat down and looked at that and decided it was arbitrary to decide we should just have a 6 mil minimum thickness on every pipe. So we went back to the ASTM standard only and went with an alternate bid. Here's the original bid with a 6 mil minimum, and you can see that my estimate for the project was $138,000. We had 7 bidders, but we didn't go with this base bid. We decided to go with the alternate bid because of what I've just discussed. And that turned out that Visi Sewer got the low alternate bid. It will be based solely on the ASTM standards and formulas. If you look at those 7 bidders, we have used Visi Sewer in the past. They got our bid last year. We were happy with their work. Prior year, it was in situ form. We were happy with their work. Lamenti and Sons had put in our Lamenti interceptor. HydroClean's been our bidder has gotten our bids for manholes. They've not done any lining for us. They just didn't get the bids, but we've been happy with many of these bidders. This year's budget, we have $175,000 budgeted for the project. And as I had shown you earlier, I estimated $138,000 for the project. The low bid is $130,000. We are below that $175,000. Why didn't we add more mains to get up to $175,000? Well, there were a couple of things. At the beginning of when we first got this TV equipment, there were a few delays getting it working, getting it running, so we didn't get as many mains televised as we would have liked, which is one of the major decision factors when we look at the pipes and what we want to do with them. The second reason is we don't ever want to get right to that number, because between now and when the contract's done, as the field guys continue to televise something, if we find something that's imminent, we can tack it on to this contract and not be overbid or over the budget. This slide really has nothing to do with the lining project. It's just some general statistics for our sewer, for the city. If you look at the very last line, the total pipe length in the city has gone up. And in red, why is that? New development out in villas in the north end of town. So those are new pipes that were added. If you look at length of line pipe, we went from 22,000 last year to 24. That's the difference in what was lined last year. If you go up to the length of clay pipe, that's dropped. That's dropped because what was clay, a couple thousand is now lined, taken off of there. What some people might, if you looked at this close, you'll see that I've got cast iron pipe, the very top line, around 3,000 feet, 3,100, but this year, 3,210. Well, we didn't install any cast iron pipe. Tomorrow, where's that coming from? Well, as the field crew televise, or if we have any sewer repairs, I'm continually updating what we have. Infrastructure that's in the ground right now might be 50, 80, 100 years old. It's always our best guess, or what we thought was on as-built. And the field crew comes to me and says, Tamara, we've TV'd that. It's not clay. It's cast iron. So changes like that are not, we're not adding cast iron pipe. We are updating our map as we go along. Any questions about that before I show you a quick portion of our one of our videos? Any questions on the lining?
I just have one tomorrow. So the business that I'm in, I'm somewhat familiar with the ASTMs and read through this one. And it talks, and also in the information that we were given, we were told there was a study done in 2008.
2008, the study we did here, 2008, yes, there was. I don't know if it was AIRS or SEH had looked, I think it was AIRS, had looked at the whole city in terms of its infrastructure. I came in 2007, so was on the tail end of that. The initial study and stuff was done before I got here. And based on that, it was decided we needed to step up our lining, do more, if that's the study that you're referring to that we had done here, step up our infrastructure repair. We have a lot of old pipes that needed repair, and that's where some of, oops, sorry, I bumped the, that's where some of the incentive for budgeting through Julie and the others have come from. I don't, not
Yeah,
sure.
just so for clarification, there was the study and then there was a plan.
Yep.
And you guys started with the plan, but then you're televising and kind of updating that plan every year.
As
So
we go.
You're on schedules.
Yes, yes. If I had my way, we would have done more this year, but as again, we got new TV equipment and we had a few delays there. I would have liked to have seen us line a little bit more this year, but now we're really, I'd like to say, I think Ron can address this, going gung-ho with the lining more than, no, excuse me, not the lining, the televising than we were before. So I think we're as on schedule as we can be, considering the hiccups that have come along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Ron has some other input to that, or Kevin.
I think it just, as far as, like Tamara said with the televising, big thing was, we don't want to line sewer that doesn't need it, just for the sake of doing it. We want to make sure we get the worst stuff. So as we continue to televise, we make sure that's what we're doing. Because we still do find clay pipe that looks like today it was put in, still in pretty good shape. So we want to get the worst of the worst, I guess, is what we're trying to do. So,
I had a kind of a question related to that. So I know we had, this was kind of to Mark's point, we had rated our sewers 1 through 5, 5s being the worst. I think we're kind of getting off the 5s now, aren't we?
A lot of the ones we did this year were 4s.
Fours.
But again, as we TV more, because we don't have the whole city televised, we might find some that before the company even comes into town, that we decide are 5s and can tack onto this contract. Or if they're 5s but not imminent, they will go on next year's project.
But you guys can both feel comfortable saying that we have addressed most of the 5s
Yes.
in town,
Yes, the 5s that we are aware of.
down to the triage and gun down to the
Correct.
4s.
There are a few 5s out there still that we are not doing this year because they are part of the Lamenti project, and that whole Lamenti project is a whole, a separate animal, going to be relined or possibly replaced. We couldn't see lining those now when they aren't certain what's going to happen with that whole Lamenti project as it stands.
Yeah, so for Mark and Kellen, I don't know if anybody else is, I think maybe only you two. Yeah, we have our whole system rated 1 through 5, 1s being the best, 5s being the worst. We do triage that, and we're almost through the 5s, so that's good. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. How about that? How much do you want to spend? How much do you have to spend? And what can you manage every year? And if Tamara can lobby a little more, we can get an extra $25,000 in there for
Did that help at all?
Did.
Okay.
Yep.
Quick question. I remember going over this before, and the 1 through 5s, and I mean, we handed the pipe around the whole bit. I don't remember where we're at as overall through the town. How much of the town is lined? How long do you foresee this going before we're complete? I mean, or is it just ongoing as needed, probably forever? Or what's the
I would say it's ongoing as needed until almost all of the clay pipe is replaced. I don't know how long, and maybe Ron can address this, I don't know how long it's thought that PVC pipe will last before it starts to become a problem, or will the problems only be at the joints where trees get in or whatever, or roots. But at this point, I would envision that this will just continue until the clay pipe is replaced. I didn't do up any statistics to, which I could have and didn't think to do, was to take and look at all our clay and cast pipe and now say how much of that is of our whole total system, and then how much of that has been lined. I didn't think to put that together as statistics, but I see this as a continuing thing each year until most of our clay pipe has been lined. Do you agree with that, Kevin?
Yes. You know, clay and cast iron, I mean, and sometimes too, you think you hear clay or cast iron and we can televise it and it looks fine. So we're going purely on condition of what we see when we televise. Chances are clay and cast iron are going to be potentially have issues, but not always necessarily. But I'm telling you right now, Tamara and Ron are on top of this, and we're televising and detailed notes on your map noting.
Well, trying.
But
Other questions? And I know Kevin has pushed me a few times, and I've just not moved on it. He'd like me to sometimes at some point in time, give you guys just kind of a demo of our system, a demo of our mapping, rather than specifically to a bid that we're trying to get something passed. Just give you the heads up on that. It hasn't happened yet.
we'll have you back for an encore sometime.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe that's me dragging my feet or whatever, but.
So this is interesting. I'm just going to set this up for you to share this video. But on the maps that Tamara does, you can click on a section of pipe, and if it's been videoed, the video will play. So that's how sophisticated our mapping system is.
Okay, this is Broadway, one of the pipes we are going to do this year. And I'm going to back that up just a little bit more. And this is stuff that Ron and his guys did do. And at about 47 feet, you're going to notice cracking up along the top especially. And this is one that made it for us a 5, because if these cracks continue, that could collapse, break in, collapse, and plug up the main.
Is that getting elliptical too? Is that what I see there?
No, this was a effect of the TV video, which was one of those early things that we're working with. It's a regular round pipe. It just was an effect of the video that Ron has since improved on. And we won't watch the whole thing. I'll skip ahead, but you can see the cracking. And then we're going to go to 58 feet, and I'm going to show you an example of a connection. Let's see. Inevitably, I'll overshoot it. Okay, you're going to see up at the top, right here, it's going to be top of pipe connection. You're looking up at what a lateral looks like. You see a crack along the lateral, but this would be a lateral going to a business. Now, this particular one happens to be capped. Don't know why. I don't know if originally, they thought there'd be they put a tap in here figuring they might connect to it. As it happens, this is on the side that faces the nursing home on Broadway. It is not their lateral, however. It is a capped one. It is one that when they come through and line this, we will not have them open this. Then that clears up that crack. There's no issues with extra leaking coming in on a lateral that's not used and not necessary. And then I'll just show you one more example here at 71 feet of some more cracking along this same main. I'll make you watch it or I'll pass it.
Is that like typical high water mark or?
Yes, that's as the sewer had filled up to that level, debris catches along there, and there's some more cracking going on along the pipe. And at that point, it's still okay, but all it takes is, freeze thaw, road shaking, and that collapses in, and now you got a blockage. And now we have, if you let it collapse, now we're digging that street open. Big excavation, extra expense.
Tamara, did your sales people give you a life expectancy of the resin?
Lining is considered at least 50 years from the stuff I've seen. Unless Ron's known of anything further, it's considered at least a 50-year life.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to lose the whole pipe, and if you just had the liner and still structurally sound, you can use just the liner and
And if anybody wants to see this when it happens, just contact me tomorrow. When are you expecting this tomorrow? When's the due date?
Well, as soon as these folks approve it, and we get signatures out on the contracts, we'll get them going.
Scheduled, last year's like October.
Yeah, the contract, we have the contract set, so they will be done by 1st of November, so we would like them in, obviously, earlier than that. For me, the sooner the better, but that's kind of up to their schedule and Ron's, and so we'll have so it'll be sometime between now and November 1st. Anything else?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we have the resolution supporting the bid award for the 2018 sanitary sewer lining project in front of us.
I move approval of the resolution.
Any discussion at all? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Resolution passes. You're welcome. Now to the reports. We have the AMI update and report from Greg.
Good evening.
Evening.
So I'm here to talk to you about the AMI project that we're currently piloting and have been doing for a while. How many of you have heard about the AMI project? You all know a little bit about it, so you know it's advanced metering infrastructure. That's what AMI stands for, and it's meters that can talk to each other, and ultimately they can communicate back here to City Hall, and that gives us a lot of advantages. I kind of call it the operating system for metering, where it's can collect that data and we can use it to do billing, do remote disconnects of people's electric service, give some of that data to the customers, possibly in the future set up alerts for them, things like that. So it's a pretty neat technology. And I wanted to jump in and show you the maps that we have that show the meters that we are currently have in place. I think there's about 160 of them. I got logged out, so please excuse me while I log in.
So I'll explain, as you log in, I'll explain. So we have 160 AMI meters in town right now. And of the 160, what, 120, 125 are commercial, probably?
Just about every single one except for maybe, 10 of them.
So really, okay.
I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the impetus of doing the commercial was because a lot of these large commercial customers really rely on the electric data, 15-minute interval data that they can use to control electric load. And so we started out when we got some of the AMI technology to help some of our large customers. So we've kind of went down another tier before we go full-fledged with this next year, as Greg's going to talk about. But this is mainly for commercial customers at this point.
Right, this is primarily commercial. We have a policy in place right now where we'll install an AMI meter on a commercial property only after we've informed them about it and they've made the decision if they would like it or not. And in many cases, it's very advantageous to have the meter installed. And then there's been a number of city employees who have been very interested in the project, such as myself, and have opted in that case. So I have one at my house. We can take a look at that later if we want. So this is a live map. If there was a power outage right now, we would see red dots. And this is one of the really cool parts of this technology is that in the future, we'll be able to have outage management because of our AMI system. It'll be able to show us when power goes out, things like that. The neat thing about this map, I think, is that it shows how they all kind of talk to one another. So you can click on 1 meter, and you can see that it goes. This is the I think this is the middle school. Actually, let's click on this one. That's my house. And so my house is there's a repeater on the mound, and then it comes down to the south substation where we have a device called a gatekeeper that collects that data. And all the meters eventually talk to the gatekeeper, but as you can see, they may make a few hops from meter to meter to do that. So it makes a very reliable network because if a path disappears, the meter can choose a new path to the gatekeeper and still get the data where it needs to go. Currently we have 2 gatekeepers installed. So here's the south sub and here's the north sub. And once we have a full AMI installation, we'll be talking 8 to 10 gatekeeper devices throughout the city to handle that load.
Can I drive home a point on that, Greg, on that map?
Sure.
So that outage map there, I mean, that's one thing that kind of excites me. There will be a point in time in the not so distant future when customers will not have to call in anymore for power outages. We'll have something visible on our website actually where you can go to it and see where power outages are. Our crews will be tied to that on their phones and devices to see where power outages are. So you'll know. Some of our competitor, I don't know if they're competitors, but neighboring utilities already have such thing, XL Energy. If you go to the cities, you could pull it up on their website today and see who's out of power. We'll probably end up making these not specific houses, so you don't know what specific house is out, but general areas and location. But you'll be able to go to this either on your handheld device or whatever and see where the outages are. So to find out you're not alone, or maybe you are alone, I don't know.
If you're alone, blame the squirrel. Right, so we've been talking through a number of the advantages. We've been focusing on the electric side. We're also planning on doing the water meters. In the case of the water meters, it's not replacing the whole meter. There's a head that goes on top of the meter, and that head is what transmits the current reading from that meter. And so we'll just be replacing those heads. This is Virgil at my house putting my meter on, so I took a few pictures for you so you kind of see what the process looks like. He just opens up your old one, pulls it out, puts the new one back in. Takes about 2 minutes. Paperwork takes longer. So, like I said, we've got a pilot going. We've got 157 meters installed as of the 16th. We've developed a FAQ that would try to answer some questions that folks in the city may have. And we've developed a policy for installing meters during this pilot phase. And I would probably expect to develop a policy around data usage and that type of thing for the whole project to just give people a comfort level of what we will do with this information and how it will be managed and stored and that type of thing. The project itself, we'd like to get it to City Council probably around December of this year. And we've been kind of throwing around a few ideas for different dates when this project might actually start and kind of kick off. I think I was talking to Wayne, and the best time frame would probably be April, because that's when the disconnect season starts. And so we could install, rather than having to pull a meter off of a house for a disconnect, we could go and install an AMI meter and be done in just one trip with that particular property. To continue with, to start the water part of the project, there's a PSC approval process that we need to go through, and that takes about 3 months to get that approval. Just a lot of collecting data and giving them some insight into our utility and how things work, that type of thing. We think it'll be about a 3-year project. I've got some money in the budget to hire an outside contractor to come in and help with the water, because with the water it's a lot more complicated. You have to schedule an appointment, get inside the property. At the same time, we'd like to do a cross-connection inspection, which is just looking for places where water could siphon back into our water system and potentially contaminate it. And the idea there being, let's touch the customer's property once and then not go back for a very long time. Let's try to be good stewards. I was going to say good citizens. I guess we are that too, I hope. What else? Yep, that's that slide. The budget, it looks to be about $550,000 for the electric, and we're looking at about 1.8 million for, or sorry, 1.1 million for the water, and that includes $150,000 every year for 3 years to hire an outside contractor. And so we there's some room to tweak numbers here, or we can make it go faster or slower. And at this point, we don't have any bids or any idea of what an outside contractor would cost. So just kind of trying to ballpark it and say, well, we think we need roughly this many people. What do we think that might cost?
You might want to drive home that point too, of magnitude of energy or time it takes to install. How many electric meters can you do in a day, and how many water meters can you do in a day?
Other utilities are saying they're doing 60 to 80 electric meters a day. Water meters, with the same number of people, they are doing 10 to 15. So it's a very different process. The electric meters, it's go to the outside of a property, plug, unplug, plug another meter in, and you're basically done. With the water, it's schedule the appointment, get inside, do an inspection, change the head. There's just a lot more moving parts to that. Yeah.
So hence the labor costs.
And hence the labor costs. It's much more time consuming.
Otherwise, it would take us 10 years to change them.
Yes, it would. It would take our guys a minimum of 5 years, and that would be pretty much all they would be doing at that point. So.
But even with the electric, if you pull the meter, you're going to interrupt the power to that house.
It actually depends. On older houses, yes, you will probably disrupt the power. A lot of the newer meter sockets, and I don't know how new they have to be, but a lot of the newer meter sockets actually will allow you to unplug the meter and the power will stay on while you plug in you unplug the old meter, you plug in the new one, and the power will stay on. So my house, the power stayed on, but I had a new electric service put in relatively recently, and so that's why that worked pretty nicely for me. And I think every city employee who's opted in so far has had that experience. So I think there's quite a few of those types of meters out there. Wayne knows a better answer than I do.
They're called bypass meter sockets, and they've pretty much been started installing about 20 years ago. So just a bypass lever just kind of shorts out in the backside. Shorting's a bad term, but it just bypasses the meter, allows you to pull it out, install a new one, and pull the lever back down without any interruption to the customer.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, so very seamless for many people. Yeah. Any other questions?
You mentioned that you've been installing these in, businesses and things like that. Have you had anybody say they didn't want one? And if so, why? Or what concerns do you anticipate?
Right. We haven't had anyone say that they did not want one from a business perspective. And the businesses especially, the AMI meters they can measure power quality and the power factor. There's different things they can measure and data that they can get out of them that they want, right? So it's a great thing for a business. Should we talk about, we had one gentleman
one customer
from the community who came in and we talked to him here, and we met with him at City Hall, and he was concerned about the meters, and I think his primary concern was the potential health effects of having wireless communications on our meters, this type of thing. And we dug into that quite a bit. Virgil bought a radio frequency signal monitor device that tells you how strong signals are, this and that. And what we found is that our current meters actually produce more radio frequency than the new ones. The current ones, every few seconds, they broadcast their current reading value. And they're hoping for a car to drive by and pick up that signal. The new ones, every few minutes, they send out, hey, here's what the current, I think it's a 15-minute interval.
15-minute intervals, yeah.
Right. So that's, they're just, the newer technology is much more efficient. And also to that point, our meter reading vehicle right now, especially because of the UW and move in and move out season, things like this, it's going around a lot. And so this will save a significant amount of time from our meter reading folks.
But Kellen, that's a good thing. And so what I'll have Lene do is remind me to send you all the FAQ sheet that we have. We'll email that out to you tomorrow. You can all take a look at the FAQs. It'll answer a lot of your questions. Talks about what the frequency of these meters, what they compare to and other devices, how it can compare to our existing meter. But the fellow that came in, that was very useful, and we went out to his site, and after we were there, he was, I think, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did follow up with an email a few weeks later, or maybe a month or two later, and he was, again, kind of emphasizing the health concern that he had, and I think If anything, we're creating hopefully a healthier environment, if that is really a problem. So. Any other questions?
Just, is there any return on investment on this?
I'll let Kevin answer that.
Yes, in the long run, the return on investment is one. Our current meters are getting towards the end of their lifespan, so we're going to be changing out meters anyway. The incremental price difference is not that great from these new meters to the existing meters, type of meters that we have. In the long run, the savings is going to be around sending folks out for connects, disconnects, virtual driving around, and then the value added really is what we're looking for customers to identify power outages, being able to get alerts on water leaks and high energy use and things like that. So a lot of the value addeds are going to really be what might, I don't know, sell the product, but that's what would get me excited about it. It's going to do a lot of great things for the utility, don't get me wrong, and I think in the past, utilities would say, hey, it's good for us, let's do this. I think let's do this because it's good for the customer. There's a lot of good information for customers when we get these meters.
And if I may interject to that point, I think down the road, and this is not a capability we currently have, but this is sort of the operating system. It's like a computer. It's like, what can I do with it? And this is the base. And last weekend, I accidentally had a toilet left running in my house. And it would have been cool if I could have gotten a text message to my phone saying, hey, your water's running. And this type of system enables that. And I think that's a really neat thing. And then if you're a data geek like I am, I did some cooking the other night and I found out how much it costs to run my stove and how much it costs to run my dishwasher. And it's amazing how cheap it is, but it's kind of fun to know.
And a running toilet will cost you about $700 a month.
For the whole month.
For 1 month. For a whole month.
So
we get 1 or 2 of those a year.
Yeah. I think I pretty well know the answer to this question. I'm actually asking for the sake of the viewers and the people who, but kind of the possible scary sides of this, will the city know when I turn my air conditioner on, and in the future when we all want to be conserving energy, could they turn it off on me? Like the control side of things. I've heard people, in conspiracy theory conversations, to put it simply, have those conversations.
Well,
is there truth to that?
There's absolutely truth to that. Every tool has a good use and a bad use. You can use a knife at home to cut your bread, and you could use a knife to end up in jail, right? So there's that possibility that there's no intent there on our part to do that. And if, we can't tell what type of appliance you're running. We know how much you drew for the last 15 minutes, that type of thing. The current meters can already do that.
Google can.
So Google might even know more than, that's where I think developing a policy to give some comfort to folks. Not only would it give comfort, but if someone wanted to do something different in the future, that policy would have to be changed or revised in order to allow that to happen. And so that's where I think a policy could be an effective tool to put some of those concerns to rest.
And I haven't heard you or Kevin or anyone else suggest that we move in that direction, and I appreciate you answering it that way, that you're already calling that the bad side of things. So I think that's a comforting notion.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Just address that just for 1 second too is, at some point in time, probably the next 5-7 years, you're going to see what they call time of day rates, where electricity is going to cost you what it costs to produce at that time. And you're going to say between noon and 6 p.m. it's going to cost more. So that's where these meters are going to be able to tell you what you're using during those periods of time. So, I guess it kind of it touches on what you're saying. We're not telling you what to run or what not to run or turning people off, but there'll be different price signals that these meters will be useful for.
Greg, I question just willing customers. How are you finding willing customers? And
a lot of the guys I talk to say, there's actually a list of people in City Hall who want a meter put in. We haven't gotten to them yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the businesses, like we said, there's immediate advantages there where we can help them find some power quality type of problems and that type of thing. And also, it can help them know when to run a motor or when not to run 2 motors at the same time to avoid, to keep their peak demand lower. So.
With all of the new construction going on, are these already going into the new houses, or are they still getting the old? I'm seeing.
They're
heads.
currently getting the old meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
We dabbled with that and said, nope, we're just going to stick with old meters until we decide to go full bore with this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something we really want your approval and the city council's approval on before we go whole hog on it, yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. The volunteer firefighter, you're going to have time to get over to the firehouse and still get...
Yeah, I told Chief I'd be there at 7, so I got to run. Thank you.
Tried. I tried.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, see ya. Item number 6 is the hydroelectric report.
Yeah, I thought Wayne Cyberling is here, and Wayne and I will give a little presentation on just an update. The hydros are up and running, and we're just going to walk through this real briefly. I'll come over there to Wayne and help you get that going. Here we go. This is Junction Falls right here. This is the dam and the water coming over the dam. And so maybe before I even go into this, I just want to recouch this and say, yes, both hydros are up and running. Wayne and his guys, Brian Hatch and the gurus got them up and running with spare parts. So everything was pieced together. We spent zero on parts. Everything was parted out from the existing old power plant. And also, I'm going to fast forward because this is the interesting part. You guys passed a resolution for $13,000 and some change. The bill came in at under $8,000 from Energis, so that's always good news. So, and I think I have a slide in here at the very end, so I'll save that for the end. So, Wayne, you want to talk to this, Wayne, and just talk a little bit about what happened, what we have here?
Yeah, this is still the Junction Falls Hydro. The day. May 10th is when this went back online. So Paul Falls was energized on that Monday, the 7th, before Junction did. So and that was the current state as of March 22nd.
Yeah, this is the picture you saw last time when we showed you the fire. So this is something we discovered, the voltage regulator. We did not know this was bad initially.
Correct.
And then we discovered this, and this is a picture of a voltage regulator. Is it damaged there?
Yes, so you can see that part of it has broken off and flipped up there, causing the CT to open itself eventually. So this is the spare relay panel where you can see the overcurrent protection. There's that open spot there on your left-hand side next to the taped in. That was there at one part where we had to replace. We found that one of them was failed in one of the panels in both hydros during their testing. You can see it's in its current state that it's been installed there on the left-hand side. And the hydro breaker relay, the trip relay on that also failed during their testing. So that was taken out of that other panel and moved over. And here's the two that are up and running. You can maybe see some of the dials up on top are functioning up there, and then also the LED screens showing what at the time what was being produced.
This might look somewhat familiar to you if you ever took a tour of the facility there. When you walk in that back room, these are the panels that you see there. So I'll just talk briefly just about the incident here. So some questions I've had. So how long were we down? Junction Falls 50 days, Powell Falls 47 days. What did we invest in the repairs? Is like I said we're around 10,000. That was the call we got from Energis last week when I put this together. We got the final bill yesterday, and it was under $8,000. So for that, and what was our lost revenue in electricity production? So I took the last 3 years of production and divided by 365 days. It's about $195 a day. So we lost opportunity cost about $10,000 of lost potential production of electricity during those 47 and 50 days. And are we confident the repairs will hold? And so I called Wayne, and he says, yes, they're fairly confident that the parts that we found, the installation that's been done should hold.
Correct.
No guarantees, but everything seems to be running fine right now. So there was no guarantee stamped on that. And Wayne's knocking out a bunch of wood. So anyway, so about a little under $8,000 to fix the repair, and then about the $10,000 opportunity cost. So that's what we had. Any questions about the incident? Up and running.
Did Energis give a all-encompassing health report on the system? I mean, it seemed like we were pleasantly surprised that it was $8,000. Mm-hmm. What's the longevity? I guess, are we looking at more repairs soon, or nobody ever really knows? But.
No one really knows the longevity of both hydros. That'll be determined by their own health. They're not going to stamp and say it's good for 10 years or 3 or less than that. There's so many unknowns that could happen. So many wear parts could decide just to have a bad day. So
the good news, Mark, is the integrity of the wiring and stuff was sound. Yeah. So in that research, we were pleasantly surprised to find out that there wasn't extensive damage done other than what we saw visually. So that was the part we weren't sure about, and we were pleasantly surprised on that.
Surprised and happy, actually.
Yeah, very happy. So there's your update on the hydros. They're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the 2017 Annual Consumer Confidence Report.
Ron Groth, back up to the stage, our wastewater superintendent. This is our DNR required annual Consumer Confidence Report. Thanks, Ron.
I think many of you are familiar with this. You've been through it many times in the past. Just a little bit of history on why we have this. Kind of the genesis of the modern day water utility regulation started in 1974 with the Safe Drinking Water Act. Then that was amended in Congress in the 80s and then again in the 90s. And one of the last amendments in the 90s called for this Consumer Confidence Report. And it's basically a health report of the utility, let the consumers know what's in the water, basically everything out in the open, nothing's being hidden. You know exactly what we know. We know what the utility is all contained in this report. So going back to that, in 1974, there was a list of contaminants, and that list has kept growing. And what you see in your report is the contaminants that we have detects for in the system. There's many other contaminants that we test for that there's no detects that don't show up in the system. And then this year we're actually doing unregulated contaminant monitoring, which is an EPA requirement. So I believe it's every 5 years they come up with a list of things that are not regulated, that they just want to take a look at and see if it's causing any issues, how much of it is out there. So we have about $11,000 just in testing this year, in excess of what we normally do just for those unregulated contaminants. So, and everything in here, everything you see in here is kind of regulated. You have to put it in there, things like, when you see the health advisories like HIV, any immune compromised people, all the basically all the tables that we have in here for contaminants, all that stuff is basically according to form, what the EPA wants to see in the report. So, and everything, all our levels are pretty consistent. They're all about the same as they were in our last report. So nothing's changed, nothing sticks out. So I don't know if you have any questions, be happy to answer them. All right, thanks for your time.
Great, thanks, Ron. Now we have the finance report.
Good
Julie
evening.
Bergstrom, back by popular demand.
Oh, I don't think so. In your information this evening is some reports on upcoming bond issue for the electric utility. And if you recall, the electric utility doesn't have any debt on it right now. So this is a big deal for us that we're going to put it back in debt. It's been several years. It's been debt free. But as a result of the power plant substation project, we're recommending that the City Council approve about $2.6 million in revenue bonds. estimated 3.5% interest and over a 10-year period. So it's pretty moderate debt. It's not 20-year. And this would fund little more than maybe half of the project, because we planned for that somewhat. We had some funds available in the bank, savings. So we're using some cash and then borrowing the rest. So this, again, electric utility's in a really good position. And we'll be having some calls with Moody's rating agency, because the electric utility didn't have any debt. It doesn't have a rating. So that'll be really interesting to see what that comes out to be. It's somewhat held down in Wisconsin. Electric utilities, they don't really want to make them as high as sewer and water for some reason. And maybe more of that will come out when we meet with them. But so just it's pretty much an update for the board, and I can answer any questions.
You want to are you rolling into 9 and 10 then?
Pardon me?
Are you rolling into items 9 and 10?
Oh, sure, I can. Yeah.
Sure.
Tracy Biederman, our accountant, has prepared some information here. It took a few minutes to review it. Again, the cash and investments in the electric is down below where we would ideally want that to be because of project costs. We've paid just about all the project costs for the substation out of that fund. So adding another $2.5 million in project costs would bring that balance in cash up to where we would expect it to be. In general, we like it to have about $3.5 to $5 million in cash, or about half of your budget. So that one looks good. The water fund, it looks like it had some expenses for well number 5, which maybe has caused that one to have a little more of expenses, less than or greater than revenues. And also when the irrigation season kicks in, you're going to have more revenues in the summer for water. And the sewer fund looks positive, and also the stormwater. So I don't see anything out of line with any of these funds. It's just 4 months of the year, so just look at it as we go through the year and see what happens. But I'm not expecting anything that deviates from the budget. That's it.
Unless the drought continues, and people be watering.
And then I think we're at the director's report.
Let me see. Should I do this right now, or should I? Yeah, I think I'm going to do this right now. So, yes, you can. Let me make sure that. Hold on a second. We're going to honor Dwayne Peterson. First of all, I want to say Dwayne Peterson has been with the Utility Advisory Board since 2012. But, Dwayne really meets the definition for public servant, right? He was council mayor from 1990 to 1997. He was a council ward representative from 76 to 81. And then it went to District 4, and he was in 84 to 87. So Dwayne has been around the block a couple times. I just want to say thank you for your service. Come on, Dwayne. Between the Utility Advisory Board and your service on City Council and mayor of our great city, this is about the least we can do is to say thank you so much for your time, your service to the community. It means a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you. We good? Yeah. All right. Thanks again.
And finally, we have the any other announcements?
No other announcements at this time.
All right, great. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.